Recently, Daniel Penny, the condemned man from New York, because he had the audacity to defend some ungrateful POCs on a New York subway, recently was invited and attended a Army Navy game with Donald Trump, JD Vance, and a few other members of his cabinet. Also, ABC News, aka Disney, was forced to pay $15 million to Trump to settle the defamation lawsuit that he filed against him because one of the anchors, of course, accused him of sex crimes that he wasn't found guilty of. And I highlight these two stories as maybe a hope that this will bring some semblance of law and order back to America with this second administration. Now, why do I say that as far as Daniel Penny is concerned? Well, I'm hoping this invite to Daniel Penny is a signaling to America that we're going to champion law and order when it comes to people's right to defend themselves and defend others, and when it comes to law enforcement in general, defending all of society so it doesn't get to that point where you have to defend yourself or defend others against savages in the subway and savages in the streets, which more than likely are usually criminal Negroes. Because, over the past couple of weeks since Trump became president, there has been some small pocket of black dudes, particularly on social media, wanting to claim some semblance of victory, especially because a lot of black chicks are upset with them because a mere 20% voted outside of the monolith. And so they're seeing it as a victory. If anything, it's a victory because it's upsetting a bunch of Bonquishas and Shamikas that they're constantly in this gender war with, particularly online, which really pisses in the face of this concept of any type of community, especially when again you're aware of this gender war between black women and black men. And the reason why I highlight them is because if Trump actually uses this Daniel Penny situation as an opportunity to push law and order, something like a crime bill 2.0 that gets tough on crime, it'll be very interesting to see how many of that 20% will still stand by their Trump support. Because unfortunately, the overwhelming majority of Negroes not seem, they identify by the degenerates of the community, by the criminals of the community. When they criticize mass incarceration, they're not really criticizing it because of the rare few that are actually unlawfully punished. They're criticizing mass incarceration because, in general, they defend the criminal. And it's a thing that not just black women are guilty of doing, but black men as well. And so, if him bringing Daniel Penny along to this Army Navy game, knowing what he represents, sort of a vigilante justice, promotion of law and order, and use it as an opportunity to rightfully so focus as one of his main issues crime and punishment. Now, they're celebrating because of the idea that right now is mostly focused on targeting the illegals who are criminals and punishing them. But if he turns his eye towards, the people that are born here committing the crimes, and most of the violent offenders are so called black, I can guarantee you all this fake Trump support that you see amongst these Negroes, especially these men, will instantly go away. Because unfortunately, black people in general feel as though defending the thug and defending the criminal is defending this black community that doesn't really even exist. Because again, you don't see so-called white folks identifying by rednecks or trailer trash. I mean, we see how they constantly condemn them on a regular basis, and they're nowhere near as criminally active, especially in a violent way throughout the nation, the way you know the black equivalent, the ghetto, the hood, the way they are criminally active. So anyway, we'll see. Now, when it comes to this ABC News situation, the reason why that's relevant to crime and punishment is because I feel more and more people need to be sued and forced to pay up, if not get locked up, for their slanderous, defamatory lies. And again, I just love the fact that one of the main ones that's being called to force payment or being forced to pay is Disney through ABC News. The same network that platforms The View, which I'm sure they alone should be responsible for at least like $100 million worth of lies that they should be sued for. And there's like late night talk show hosts because again, these people say a lot of slanderous, defamatory things that has obviously even led to danger with attempts made on Trump's life. And he can very uh, realistically hold them responsible for creating an environment that has led to not only attempts on his life, but successful attempts on the lives of Trump supporters who've been assaulted and killed in large part through the encouragement of the mainstream media. So they should be doling out not just tens of millions of dollars, but hundreds of millions of dollars. As much as Alex Jones got condemned for Sandy Hook, they were trying to get $1 billion out of him. The mainstream media has consistently involved themselves in far more egregious verbal acts than Alex Jones in comparison, because they actually have the power and influence of the mainstream, especially when you talk about the last 8 years. Now their power is lessening, but it's still there, and it was even more there back when they all started these incendiary attacks in 2016, which again hasn't just affected Trump but his supporters as well. And so hopefully more payouts like this. Apparently the anchor who's responsible is going to be forced to issue a public apology if he hasn't already. But yeah, I mean, this is what's needed. Crime and punishment in the promotion of self defense and using Daniel Penny as a symbolic figure to get crime and punishment in order to where, criminals are actually punished for their crimes to the point where they fear committing crimes in this country. And crime and punishment when it comes to lies, where people need to be forced to pay up and go into bankruptcy even if they insist on continuing spewing known lies throughout their influential platforms like ABC News.